All right, guys. So we're going to learn how to solve equations with rational exponents. So looking at number one here, what we want to do is we want to get the variable with being raised to that exponent. We want to get that by itself. So let's go ahead and do the things that we normally do when we're solving an equation. So we're going to go ahead and add the 8 to both sides. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that. So that gives us 4x to the 3 halves is equal to 8. And then I want to divide by 4 to get x to the 3 halves is equal to 2. All right, so now we know we need to get the x by itself, but we need it to have an exponent of 1 because that's what we're trying to solve for. If we're trying to solve for x, that's x to the first power. So we say, well, how can I get this from being x to the 3 halves to be x to the first power? Well, think about properties of exponents. If you have an exponent like this, so x to the n being raised to the m, well, what do you do with that? You actually multiply those two exponents. All right, now think about fractions. What fractions can you multiply to get 1? And that is reciprocals of each other. So what I can do is I can raise this right here to the 2/3 power. So in other words, it'll look like this. So x to the 3 halves, and then I'm going to raise it to the 2/3 power, which means I have to do the same thing to this side. Because whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Well, now, right here, I have basically this using the properties of exponents. So 3 halves times 2/3, that gives me x to the first. So now I have x by itself, and then this is 2 to the 2/3 as your answer. Now you can go ahead and rewrite that. It depends on how the answer is given. So this is also, if you can leave it this way is fine, or you can say that it's equal to the cube root of 2 squared, which is equal to the cube root of 4. So both of these are fine in terms of an answer. It just depends on how it's asked, if they want you to leave the exponent as a rational number, or if they want you to write it as a root. So it's totally up to you, or however the question is asked. All right, so let's look at number 2. So this one's a little different because we have a binomial that's being raised to an exponent, a rational exponent. So there's nothing we can move. We can't subtract that 1. The other thing I want you to notice is take a look at the numerator of this rational exponent. It's even. It's even. Now remember that when you're solving something like x squared is equal to 4, when you solve that, what do? You take the square root of both sides. Well, when you take the square root of both sides, what do you have to do? You have to add a plus or minus. So if this exponent, if in the numerator, is even, when we take the reciprocal of both sides, raise it to the reciprocal power, we have to add a plus or minus. So I could do a little note here and just basically say, when the original numerator is even, you must add plus or minus when you raise both sides of the equation. All right, I know I took the time to write that out in the video, but I wanted to make sure that you understood that. So again, if the original exponent in the rational exponent, if the original numerator is even, you're going to have to add a plus or minus when you raise it to the reciprocal power. So let's go ahead. I'm going to rewrite the problem right down here. So we're going to have to go ahead and just raise both sides to the 3/2 because I can't move anything. So it's going to look like this. That's my original side, and then I'm going to raise it to the reciprocal. So that's 4. I have to do it to the other side as well. So now this is going to go away, leaves me with x plus 1 is equal to 4 to the 3 halves. So now you can go ahead and of course, told you need to add plus or minus, and I forgot to put it there, so make sure you put that there. So it's x plus 1 is equal to plus or minus 4 raised to the 3 halves. So you can go ahead and simplify 4 to the 3 halves if you can do that. And the other problem over here, 2 to the 2/3 is an irrational number. It's not going to work out to be some integer value. But this right here, 4 to the 3 halves does. So this becomes plus or minus 8, because 4 to the 3 halves is equal to 8. You can key in the calculator, or you can do it manually. It's up to you. So now we have the x with the exponent of 1, but we still have this plus 1 here, so we have to get rid of that. So we go ahead and subtract the 1. And again, this is where students always make the mistake. This is not plus or minus 7. Students want to do 8 minus 1 and then leave the plus and minus in there. That you cannot do that. This means -1 plus or minus 8, which then splits off to -1 plus 8 and a -1 minus 8. So then our final answers here, we have 7, and then we have -9. So make sure you're careful when you do that, when you split that off. Again, you can't just do here 8 minus 1 and say it's 7 and say the answer is plus or minus 7. It's a common mistake, so just be careful with that. All right, so hopefully this helps you with solving equations with the rational exponents. And then I'm going to stop here and I'll pick up with the next video.